Now, what about Topuria and Islam? Could that fight happen?
Yep. That can happen too.
But then there's also people that say the Ilia Topuria and the Islam fight is the biggest fight you can make.
I think right now, yeah, I think Topuria Islam, it can be biggest fight, not John Johnson.
Dana White just lit up the MMA world with a teaser by hinting that Ilia Topuria and Islam Makhachev might potentially be on a collision course after UFC 322. No confirmations, no details, just enough to send fight fans into a frenzy, wondering if we're about to witness one of the wildest champion versus champion showdowns in UFC history.
I know you don't duck anything. I know you're down to fight anybody. So why didn't Ilia and you happen ever? Or do you think it'll ever happen, like, eventually? Or if it does, whatever?
It can happen. Like, easy, maybe, like, biggest fight.
I think it'll be the biggest fight.
Biggest fight,
Yeah.
everybody know. And I also want. And I think next year is the best time.
He didn't drop dates or details, but the message was clear, and it shows that this isn't just fan talk anymore. The idea of Topuria stepping up to challenge Islam is now very real, and both fighters seem game. It's the kind of matchup that feels inevitable. Two dominant champions, two unstoppable styles, and one massive question. Who's truly the most dangerous man in the UFC?
Now, what about Topuria and Islam? Could that fight happen?
Yep. That can happen too.
I'd like to see that fight.
I think everybody wants to see that fight,
Yeah.
including Topuria and Islam. So.
Yeah.
And when the champ himself was asked if a fight with Ilia Topuria could be the UFC's biggest right now, Islam was serious and unwavering. He made it clear that if Ilia wants the fight, even somewhere as high profile as the White House, he's ready to step up. For Islam, this isn't just another bout. He sees the magnitude of the matchup and what it could mean for the MMA community confident and focused. He emphasized that if the UFC wants to make it happen, he's fully prepared, knowing that this fight could be a defining moment for both champions and a true test of who sits at the top of the sport.
You know, there's the John Jones and the Alex Bahia fight. Everyone keeps talking about that being the biggest fight. I heard Joe Rogan talking about it's the biggest fight you could possibly make. But then there's also people that say the Ilia Topuria and the Islam fight is the biggest fight you can make.
I think right now, yeah, I think Topuria Islam, it can be biggest fight, not John Johnson Pereira.
Still a big fight, but not at the level.
No, it's still big fight, but not on that level.
No, not on that level.
I don't think it's same level.
Islam sees the fight with Ilia as a massive moment, and now Khabib, also Islam's coach, is backing that hype. He made it clear that in his eyes, a clash between Topuria and Islam could be the biggest fight the UFC can make right now. While other matchups like Johnson versus Pereira are still important, Khabib stressed they don't come close to this one. Nothing else matches the stakes, the talent, or the intrigue of these two champions colliding. By his account, this isn't just another big fight, it's on a whole different level, and the MMA world would feel the impact.
But then there's also people that say the Ilia Topuria and the Islam fight is the biggest fight you can make.
I think right now, yeah, I think Topuria Islam, it can be biggest fight, not John Johnson Pereira.
Still a big fight, but not at the level.
It's still big fight, but not on that level.
No, not on that level.
I don't think it's same level.
But on the topic of it being on a White House card, Khabib had a different perspective to Islam. He pointed out that for a fight at such a symbolic venue to really capture attention, it needs the right story. In his view, it works best when American fighters represent their country on home turf. A Georgian facing a Russian, like Ilia versus Islam, doesn't have the same punch for that stage. His perspective adds another layer to the hype, showing that while the idea of the White House showdown is massive, the setting and matchups need the perfect mix to make it truly unforgettable.
I'm going to wrap it up with a little bit of fun, though, is like, talk to me about the White House card. Expectations, would you like to see, Umar or Islam on that card?
I think if you're making in White House fight, it's have to be more American fighters. I think it's have to be more American fighters. It's very interesting. If Georgian fighter fight against Russian fighter, it's not interesting in front of White House. It's have to be something like American fighters represent their country and they fight against other guys. It seems like it's have to be like this. The way how I
Building on that, Chael Sonnen framed why this potential clash could truly become monumental. He pointed out that it's not just the names on the card, but the moments that define a fight's impact, its legacy. If Islam puts on a dominant performance on a huge stage like Madison Square Garden, it could elevate this matchup into the kind of spectacle fans talk about for years. It's about more than just belts. It's about creating a fight that lives in history.
The way I'm interpreting you asking me that is, what is the biggest fight that I think that they are going after? And the answer to that question is Islam and Ilia. So Khabib does some media today. Khabib talks about it. But he doesn't just talk about Islam and Ilia. He takes it on specifically. He goes head on with John Jones versus Pereira. Straight up, head on. Jones Pereira is not the world's biggest fight. Islam versus Ilia is. Okay. He's not right, but he's not wrong by much. So, what would put you over that hump? Well, one of them fighting. I mean, quite simply, Islam having a great performance at Madison Square Garden, becoming, I guess, what we would look at as champ, not technically champ, but what we would view as champ.
He continued, noting that while the hype between Ilia versus Islam and Jones versus Pereira is close, the edge often comes down to the story you build around it. He emphasized that big fights don't just happen, they're created through narrative, anticipation, and the buildup that captures the fans' imagination. Without that storyline, even two of the most talented fighters in the world can't reach their full spectacle. In other words, the chatter, the hype, and the moments leading up to the cage are just as crucial as the fight itself in turning a matchup into a historic event.
That would add to it. Ilia is supposedly doing something on Paramount in a couple of months. Let's say that goes well. The fight right now of Ilia Islam versus Jones Pereira, it's a close enough battle in terms of you're just trying to predict what the bigger fight is. It's a close enough battle that if you threw a little fuel on one of those fights, it would take the lead, which is where Khabib's right. It's where that point comes in. Now, it's not just right because Khabib says it, but none of these things come about if you don't start the narrative. There are no big fights, there are no contests, there are no matches.
Sonnen went even further, highlighting why the stakes could be exceptionally great if the fight happens at 170 pounds. Moving Ilia up wouldn't just be a weight class jump, it opens the door to creating the first ever champ versus champ scenario, something that could elevate the fight to an entirely new level. He warned that while teams naturally look out for their own fighters, the bigger picture is about making the fight happen, not holding anyone back. The real play, Sonnen argues, is seizing the chance to set up a legacy-defining showdown, even if it doesn't directly benefit one corner, because some fights are bigger than any single fighter, and this could be one of them.
They want to come down to 155. That's the part, they get that out of their head. Build into this, all you want is the fight, right? It doesn't matter whose belt. You just want to beat the other guy and have that for your legacy. The story is bigger. Because if we do it at 170, you now have the opportunity for the first ever champ. And that's an opportunity for Ilia, which is why Team Khabib will miss it. They'll miss it. They'll want to do what's best for their guy. Forget what's best for your guy. Get the fight. Best way to get the fight. Do it at 170. Let Ilia come up. This is a conversation for another day, and it's a conversation we might not even be having, but Khabib brought it up, and for right now, I like where Khabib's going with it. But I don't want him to miss the play. The play is to create an opportunity for a champ, even if that opportunity is not for his athlete.
And now shifting gears to Javier Mendez, Islam's trainer, who is giving fans a closer look at what a potential clash with Ilia Topuria could actually look like. He explained that if Ilia moves up to welterweight, the added strength might come at the cost of some of his speed, which could play right into Islam's favor. Mendez stressed that this isn't about avoiding anyone. Islam has always been focused on legacy fights, from multiple lightweight title defenses to eyeing matchups that could define his career. Every step is clearly clearly aimed at creating battles that aren't just big, but historic.
Topuria moving up to welterweight to fight him in that weight class. How drastically does that change what the fight would look like between him and Islam, in your opinion?
Well, I think, in my opinion, it favors us even more so, because now Ilia, he's 5'6", right? 5'6", 5'7".
Yeah.
So he's definitely, he's going to be strong as a fire plug for darn sure. But, putting on that extra weight, I don't know. His speed isn't going to be there. The power will be there, but the speed won't be there. So, let's see. But regardless, we were ready to fight him back then if we had to. But the bottom line is, he wanted that welterweight title, so he was waiting to find out what was going to happen between Bilal, and Jack. So when Bilal lost, that was the opportunity he wanted, because we had discussed way before that we even knew who, Ili was going to, to fight from featherweight to lightweight. We had already talked that he wanted to defend the title 4 times and then move up to welterweight if it was available to create a legacy fight, and that's exactly what happened. So before anybody starts thinking that, oh no, he did that to avoid, he's not avoiding anybody. He never avoided anybody, but he is looking for legacy fights, yes, for sure.
And the man in question himself, Ilia Topuria, who didn't hold back when asked about the weight class for a potential clash with Islam. He made it clear that moving up to 170 pounds is the scenario that excites him most, not just for the challenge, but for the chance to go after a 3rd title and make the fight truly historic. While dropping back to 155 is an option, Ilia sees the bigger picture. This is about legacy, making a statement and creating a matchup that could define his career.
And last one from me. Earlier today, Islam Makhachev did an interview and said he's not ruling out coming back down to 155. But if it was up to you, would you rather fight him at 170 to get that 3rd title, or would you be willing to fight him at 55 because that's the division that people say he might be the best at?
It would be much better for me to fight him in 170. And I will beat him and get the 3rd title. That will be the best scenario for me.
Building on the legacy angle, Ilia Topuria took the stage at a press conference in Georgia and turned up the heat with his harsh statement. He made it clear that a showdown with Islam Makhachev isn't just another fight, it's a defining moment. If Islam loses, he can return home, but if he wins, Ilia promises to rise to the occasion. When asked about his ideal matchup for the White House card, there was no hesitation: Islam. He framed it as a historic clash, potentially the first ever fight for a belt across 3 weight classes. With both fighters at the top of their game, for Ilia, this isn't just about titles, it's about creating a fight of monumental magnitude that could captivate fans and leave a lasting mark on the sport.
ისლამის დამარცხების შემთხვევაში დამარცხებულ ისლამთან გირჩევნია თქვა შემდეგი ბრძოლა თუ პირობითად გამარჯვებულ ცარუკიანთან.
ისლამი თუ დამარცხდა, დაბრუნდეს დაღესტანში, თავის ფერმაში. თუ მოიგო კიდე, წყეისა ხო? წავა. თუ მოიგო კიდე, აუცილებლად ავალწევით, აუცილებლად 100%. ის 1-2 სახელი, რომელიც ახლა ჩემს დივიზიონში არის დარჩენილი, მაგათთან ბრძოლა და გამარჯვება, რაც მოხდა იმ ძველ კატეგორიაში, სადაც ვიყავი, პირველი იყო ვოლკი, მერე მაქს ჰოლოვეი, მერე არანაირი პრობლემა არ შევქმნიათ იმაზე, რომ წონა შემეცვალა. მგონია, რომ იგივე ფორმულა, იგივე მოხდება ამ წონაში. ერთ-ერთი ყველაზე დიდი ბრძოლა იქნება, რაც საერთოდ UFC-ის ისტორიაში შემდგარა, მესამე ტიტულზე არავის არ უბრძოლია, რომ მგონია, რომ ძალიან დიდი მაგნიტუდის ბრძოლა იქნება, რაც
Building on the fiery take of Ilia, Umar Nurmagomedov offered a grounded perspective on the drama. He acknowledged that fighters often talk tough, but history shows that those who throw shade can end up humbled in the cage, a point Manny Pacquiao once made. While people could respond to Ilia's comments about Islam's farm or personal life, Umar stressed there's no need to stoop to that level. Whether champion or not, Islam's life outside the octagon is his own, and keeping the focus on the fight, not personal digs, only adds to the anticipation of what promises to be a historic showdown.
That any fighter that talks down will eventually be the one who'll be brought down in a ring. So I think that those words mean something, and there's other things that we could say. We can kind of match him on the same energy. We can say that if he loses, he can go back to a store and start selling clothes again or whatever he does. And with or without being a champion, Islam has a farm and he's got the sheep that he herds there. He does the farmer stuff there, so it doesn't have to do anything with the fighting. It's something separate that he does. So you can you can get on that to that level or on that level and be like them, but there's no reason for that. That's not something that we bring ourselves.
And then Henry Cejudo weighed in on the Ilia versus Islam hype, offering his own perspective on how a potential matchup fits into the bigger picture. He argued that Ilia still has work to do in his division before moving up, pointing to fighters like Gachi and Arman as names that need to be addressed at 55. Using his own career as an example, Cejudo highlighted that he cleared out his division, defeated top contenders, and defended his title before stepping up to a higher weight class, emphasizing that a fighter's legacy is built on dominance at every level. In his view, the timing of Ilia versus Islam has to make sense, or it risks overshadowing what should be a monumental clash.
A lot of buzz about Ilia and Islam potentially scrapping. You know what I'm saying? That would throw a huge wrench.
With Dana White hinting and both fighters clearly interested, the pieces are falling into place for a potential Ilia Topuria versus Islam Makhachev showdown. Timing, weight classes, and legacy all factor in, but the hype is real and fans are already imagining a historic clash. What do you think? Will this fight happen? Drop your thoughts in the comments and don't forget to subscribe.